Well, good morning, dear students. So today we are going to continue with our poem elementary school classroom. So let's begin. We are talking about open-handed map, awarding the world its world. And yet for the children, these windows, not the map, their world, where all their futures painted with a fog. Right? So, dear students, I explained you open-handed map. Right? What does open-handed map refer to? We've got to find out. So, open-handed map here refers to the political map of the world. The world political map where the location of all the countries are given. Where location of all the countries are given. You might have seen the map, political map, where the location of each and every country is given, right? So open-handed map here refers to the political map of the world, awarding the world its world. Awarding the world its world. It means the world map depicting beautiful countries of the world. Awarding the world its world. See this world map, this world physical map, political map is there hung on the wall of the classroom. The writer, the poet says that this world map is quite irrelevant to the learning need of the slum children. Let us find out why does the writer say that the world political map which is hung in the classroom is quite irrelevant for the slum children. We've got to find out the meaning of this. Right? So, let's find out why does the poet say so. So, first of all, let's understand the meaning of awarding world its world. What is the meaning of this? Awarding world its world. What is the meaning of this? We have to first find out, right? Okay. So, awarding the world its world means the places, the countries that are listed on the political map give information about the location of respective places or respective countries. So this is what is the meaning of awarding the world its world. Wherever a particular country is located, the information is given to the reader of the map accordingly. So that is what is the meaning of awarding the world its world. Right? If I want to know at which longitude, at which latitude a particular country is located, that will get in physical map of a particular country, right? So open-handed map awarding the world its world means the world map which is hung on the wall of the classroom gives information about the location of respective countries or respective places. But this information that is provided by open-handed map is not of any use to us. Why? Or not of any use to the slum children. Why? Because the world of the slum children is confined in the slum itself. They will not have any privilege to have access to the world outside their slum. That is why the poet says that world map that is there hung on the wall of the classroom and which informs us about the respective locations of different places in the world this is irrelevant to the needs, learning needs of the children. Just because it is something which is irrelevant, because the children cannot have access to the place which is mentioned there, right? Okay, that is what he says here. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their futures painted with the fog. The poet says, these children, these windows, not this map, their world. For these children, he says, for these children, it is not the map that which is the world for the children, but these windows are the world for the children. Why windows? Because window here is a metaphor for the outside. Window is a metaphor for the outside view of the slum area, where these children are born, brought up, and doomed to stay there. Okay, they are doomed to stay there. They have no means to come out of this slum and have access to beautiful places that are mentioned in the map. That is why the poet says that for these children, these windows, not this map, their world. These windows means the world outside the window, that is the slum. The location of the slum is the world for the children, and not the places that are mentioned in the world map, right? Where all their futures painted with a fog. Where means in the slum. The slum is their world. Slum is the world for the slum. Slum is the world for the children, where their future is as hazy and as indistinct as the fog. So the poet means to say that the future of the slum children is as uncertain, as hazy, and as blurred as the fog itself. Understood? Therefore the poet says that the open map, the world map, is quite irrelevant in the classroom. What is relevant is the window, the view of the slum, which is visible through the window. The slum that is visible through the window is the real world for the slum children, because their future is as uncertain and as foggy, as hazy, and as blurred as fog itself. These children were born in the slum, the children are brought up in the slum, and the children will die in the slum as well. As their future is very uncertain, therefore this world map in the classroom is absolutely irrelevant to the learning need of the slum children. Hopefully you understood, dear students, these 4 lines. Now let me go ahead with the paraphrase. The world map hung on the classroom displays the names and locations of various countries of the world. The world map depicting various countries of the world, but these countries are outside the reach of the slum children, and hence the world map has no importance for the children. This world map has no relevance, no importance for the children of the slum, because the slum children are so poor, so malnutritious, that they have no other means to go outside the periphery of the slum. That is why their future is as hazy and as foggy as the fog itself. The life existing outside the window of the classroom is their actual world, and not this map in the classroom, right? Unfortunately, their world is painted with fog, the fog of hopelessness and hunger. Their future is grim and uncertain. Their future is grim and uncertain. Now, dear students, let's move on to stanza 2. Part 3. Stanza 2, we are already there, but now it's part 3. You see here, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, caves, and stars of words. So, the place where the slum children live, this place has a narrow street which is sealed in with a lead sky. See, lead sky means their future is compared to a narrow street having dull sky above. Okay, it means that the place where they are living is very narrow, very cramped, very congested, and it appears that even the sky above them is as blunt as lead. Okay, there is no clear sky, it's a lead sky where they live. Actually, in reality it is not true, but by the lead sky the poet means to say that even the sky appears to be dull, even the sky appears to be very dull as the lead, because there is no hope for the survival of these slum children. There is no hope for the welfare of the slum children as of now. Therefore, it appears that the place where they live, the place there where they live is absolutely narrow, and it appears that even the sky overhead where they live, the place where they live, the sky overhead also appears to be very dull like lead. So just to indicate the fact that their future is painted with fog, just to indicate the fact that the future of slum children is very uncertain, the poet has made a symbolic reference of lead sky as well. The sky cannot be lead, but actually it's a poetic term. By this lead sky, the poet means to say that the world of the slum children is also very grim. It appears that even the sky overhead is also as dull and as blatant as the lead itself. Far from rivers, the place where they live is far from rivers. There is no river, there is no water body nearby. There is no mountains. Caves means here landscapes. There is no landscapes available nearby. And stars of words. Stars of words means no knowledge available, no knowledgeable person available where they are living. Right? So, dear students, it means that the poet means to say that the place where the slum children are growing up, this place is away from the lap of nature, away from the natural view, away from nature, away from rivers, away from mountains, landscapes, away from the knowledgeable people. Then how will they grow? Okay, the poet means to say that nature has a very heavy influence on the growth of human beings. Okay, if a child is found to be growing up in the lap of nature, under the tree, near the river bank, then nature has a healing touch. Nature has a very huge influence on the physical as well as mental growth of a person, and these slum children are living away from nature, thereby restricting their growth and development. The poet means to say that nature contributes a lot in the upbringing of a human being. Okay, therefore you will see that the boys and girls who grow up in the lap of nature in the village and surrounding areas, they are stronger than the children who are growing up inside the four walls of the city. Right, the children who are growing up in the lap of nature, they have more resilience, they have more immunity, they have more they are stronger physically, as well as they can do work much faster than the city fed children. Right, so therefore the poet means to say that nature has a huge influence on the upbringing of children, but unfortunately these slum children live away from the contact of nature. They live away from rivers, they live away from landscapes, they live away from stars of words. Stars of words here refer to the source of knowledge. It could be teacher, lecturers, etc. Okay, now let us paraphrase these two lines so that you are able to understand these two lines better. Their future is sealed with a dark and dull sky. The poet their future is sealed with dark and dull sky. It means it is symbolical actually, like their future is very sealed, their future appears to be very much enveloped with dull sky. There does not, in their life there does not seem to be any sunshine. He means to say that in their life there seems to be no sunshine. That is why the poet has made mention of lead sky here. Always remember, the poet again says that their world is far away from the actual world of rivers and caves. Okay, they are not growing in the company of nature, which contributes towards the physical and mental growth of a child. Then stars of words here refers to acquisition of radiant light of knowledge, which is like stars in the sky, impossible for slum children to reach out to. Okay, so it is very difficult for the slum children to come or stay in touch with the source of knowledge, that is teachers, lecturers. Okay, why? Because in their slum there is no teacher available, no lecturer available, and without the presence of teachers, without the presence of a source of knowledge, it is very impossible, it is very difficult for a child to grow physically, grow intellectually. Okay, to grow intellectually. But nowadays a lot of source of knowledge is available, like you have your YouTube, which is a vast repository of knowledge. You have very useful websites which are also vast source of knowledge. But in those days there was no YouTube, there was no website. Okay, teachers were the only source of knowledge for the children. Okay, so that is why here, by radiant light, by stars of words, the poet means to say that there is no source of knowledge in front of the slum children. Then how can they ensure the intellectual growth? Neither the children will have physical growth, mental growth, nor will they have intellectual growth, because there is absence of source of knowledge in front of them. Now let's move on to stanza 3, part 1 of stanza 3. Okay, you see here, if you have any query, dear students, before I proceed to the next stanza, you can ask me questions, right? If you have any query from whatever I have just finished, you can text me. I will reply you, and then I shall go ahead with the next part of my explanation. And if you do not have any query, in that case I can go ahead. So do you have any query till what I have taught you so far? If you have any query regarding any word, any phrase, or any particular figure of speech, you can ask me, so that I can respond to your query and then go ahead with my explanation. I am awaiting your response. Okay, Rishu, Anam and Shubham. Okay, so anyway, let me continue then in that case. Okay, surely Shakespeare is wicked. See, dear students, this is very, very important. I mean, the entire poem is difficult actually, because it's full of imagery, symbols, metaphors, simile. So you need to be a bit careful. You need to be a bit careful when I'm explaining you each and every word. Okay, so that you understand the concept, because this is written by a Nobel laureate. This poem is written by Stephen Spender, who is a Nobel laureate, who has won the Nobel Prize in Literature. You can imagine how knowledgeable is the writer. Okay, how knowledgeable is the poet, because he has ended up winning the Nobel Prize in Literature. Okay, he is a very intellectual person. So that is why, and moreover, this poem is a little bit difficult in terms of its structure, in terms of its imagery and metaphor. Okay, symbols. Therefore, please remain focused. Surely Shakespeare is wicked. The map a bad example. Shakespeare is wicked. the map a bad example. What does it mean? Shakespeare is wicked. William Shakespeare, the great dramatist of whom you might have heard about. Okay, who you have might have heard about. Who you might have heard about. William Shakespeare is a very famous dramatist, dear students. Okay, so the poet says that Shakespeare is wicked. Why is Shakespeare referred to as wicked in this in the first line itself? Because picture of William Shakespeare, which is hung on the wall of the slum classroom, is also very irrelevant to the learning need of the slum children. Because in order to understand William Shakespeare, you need to go to a certain level of intellectual maturity. You need to grow up. You need to go to college, or you need to go to university to be able to read Shakespeare, because by the time you go to college, your intellectual intellectual maturity is reached, right? And until and unless you reach your intellectual maturity, you cannot have access to the content of William Shakespeare, because William Shakespeare has intellectual content. He writes content which is not understandable or intelligible by the ordinary readers. You need to attain certain intellectual maturity to be able to understand William Shakespeare. So as slum children cannot reach that stage, cannot attain such maturity, because they cannot go beyond primary school, or they cannot go beyond secondary school, therefore they will not have access to the writing of books of William Shakespeare. And the books of William Shakespeare are not introduced in class in primary section or secondary section, right? The books of William Shakespeare are introduced in the from college onwards, after you attain certain maturity, intellectual maturity. Therefore the poet says that Shakespeare is wicked here. The books of Shakespeare does not make is not relevant to the learning need of the slum children, because slum children cannot read the books of William Shakespeare. That is why Shakespeare has been referred to as wicked. Sorry. The map a bad example. Why is the map referred to as a bad example? Because as I told you in the last few lines, the word map that is there hung on the classroom of the school is also a bad example. Why? Because the children will have no access to the world or the places which are mentioned in the world map. Okay, because their life is confined in the slum only. Therefore the places which are mentioned in world map are quite inaccessible to the slum children. That is why the map is also a bad example, quite irrelevant for the learning need of the slum children. So it's not only William Shakespeare's picture which is irrelevant, but also the world map which is hung on the classroom is also very much irrelevant, right? Now let's move on to the next line. With ships and sun and love. With ships and sun and love, tempting them to steal. Okay, it means that these ships, sun and love, these are some of the images. It is a figure of speech, dear students, which is called imagery or images. You can say image also, you can also say imagery. Imagery is a figure of speech. What does imagery refer to, dear students? Imagery means if I make mention of a particular word which creates an image in your mind, then this is called imagery. So whenever I make reference of a sheep in front of you, then the image of a particular sheep or the image of a sheep will come to your mind. So that is why these words are called imagery. So here the examples of imagery like sheep, sun and love, these imagery are often mentioned in the books of William Shakespeare. So if you tell the story of William Shakespeare to the slum children, then slum children will start repenting their life repenting. Why? Because they cannot have access to seeing the sheeps, or they cannot have access to reading about or going to the beautiful places where there is mention of sunshine, and they cannot also have access to the life of prince and princess and their love, for example. Okay, so therefore they will become rebellious. The slum children will become rebellious to read the content of the story of William Shakespeare, even if the stories of William Shakespeare are said to the slum children. These stories will be quite irrelevant, because the mention of the sheep, son and love that comes in the story of William Shakespeare will have a negative impact in the minds of the children, and which will prompt them to steal, force them to steal. Why it will force them to steal? Because see, if you say something about say for example, in the modern context, let me explain you. If you say some good features of a smartphone to a slum child, and the slum child will certainly develop some kind of a temptation to steal a smartphone, because he cannot afford to buy a smartphone. So if you say some good features about smartphone to a slum child, then it is a bad impact on the slum child. Why? Because the slum child cannot afford to buy a smartphone. Therefore the slum children or a slum child will be tempted to steal it or snatch it from someone, so as to fulfill his wishes, right? Therefore it is similar here in the context of the poem. If you are telling the story of William Shakespeare to the slum children, and the mention of sheep and beautiful places and beautiful people in the story of William Shakespeare, these stories, this imagery, the stories of William Shakespeare will make them restless, will prompt them to achieve something in their life, similar to what is mentioned in the story of William Shakespeare, by resorting to stealing, resorting to snatching, and so on. Therefore William Shakespeare is irrelevant. The world map is irrelevant to the learning need of the slum children. For lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes from fog to endless night. Slyly turn in their cramped holes means their existence in their congested houses will bring eternal fog and miseries in their lives. Their existence in their congested houses will bring eternal fog and miseries in their lives, right? So now the poet shifts to somewhere in the house of the slum children. Okay, he is now shifting from the classroom scenario to the slum residences, to the slum homes where these children live. Okay, in the last two lines of this stanza, he says, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes. Holes means here the cramped places where the slum children live, they sleep and they live. Okay, the cramped place, cramped means very congested, right? Very congested place is called cramped place, right? So the poet means to say that here, the slum children lived in a very congested house. They live in a very cramped house, which is there, and they have to stay there forever, because their future is painted from fog to endless night. Okay, they have to remain in such cramped holes, they have to remain in such congested homes forever and ever, because their future spans over or their future is extends from fog to endless night. Okay, their future extends from fog to endless night. Their future is like endless night, where there is no sunshine, only endless night. There is no sunrise, it seems, for the poor slum children. There is no sunshine for them. It's all endless night for the slum children in their crammed houses. Okay, so till this particular stanza, the poet is very much pessimist, very much sad, very much disappointed at the miserable condition of the slum children. Okay, the miserable way the slum children is living, the miserable way they are leading their life, the miserable way they sleep in their cramped house is something that has pained the poet so much that he says that their future is not only painted with fog, but also it seems that there is no sunrise in the life of these slum children. It's for them the life is endless night. There appears to be no sunrise for in the life of the slum children, right? So dear students, now let's go to the paraphrase before we proceed to the next few lines. Okay, excuse me. The poet says that picture of Shakespeare on the classroom is irrelevant or meaningless, as slum children will have no opportunity to read books of William Shakespeare. As they have no scope of reading the books of William Shakespeare, therefore picture of William Shakespeare on the classroom or on the classroom wall is irrelevant or meaningless. Similarly, map is also the world map which is hung on the wall of the classroom is also a very bad example, as these poor children, slum children, can never visit such places as mentioned in the map of the classroom wall. Next, the beautiful world depicted or presented on the classroom wall, like the sun, ships, love and care, only tempt them to steal because they cannot have access to this material world. Okay, so dear students, it's not only in the books of William Shakespeare but also on the pictures of the wall, on the pictures of the classroom wall, where a beautiful scenery is there with sunshine, with sheep, and with the pictures of love. Everything will also prompt them to steal because they cannot have access to the world where there is sunshine, where there are a lot of sheep, or there are stories of love. They cannot have access to such world because their world is confined to the slum area. Therefore, such world will make them imagine some fanciful life which they are not able to fulfill. That is why they will resort to stealing, snatching, etc. to achieve their unfulfilled wish. They lived in cramped houses and there is no end to their misery. Their continued existence in such cramped place will result in eternal fog and uncertain future in their lives. They live in cramped houses and there is no end to their misery. Their continued existence in such cramped place will result in eternal fog and uncertain future in their lives. As they are living in such cramped houses, it appears that this will result in eternal fog in their life, and their future is cramped to it or painted with future fog, and their future is very uncertain. It appears that there is no sunrise in their life. It's only endless night, right? So dear students, this is how we come to the end of paragraph stanza 3 part 1. Okay, so we have another, I think, 2 stanza left. Yes, and it will take time, so we shall wind up here today. Okay, so we shall wind up today. There is 8 lines are left from this poem, which we shall be able to finish only tomorrow, dear students, only tomorrow, because these 8 lines will take time actually. Okay, these 8 lines will take time. I need at least half an hour at a stretch to explain you these 8 lines. Okay, minimum half an hour I require to explain you these 8 lines. Therefore I schedule it for the next day. Okay, that is tomorrow. I schedule this 8 lines for tomorrow. So dear students, if you have any kind of question, you can ask me. You see, stanza 3 part 1, as I told you, Shakespeare is wicked, you understood. Why Shakespeare is referred to as wicked, you understood. You understood why world map is a bad example in the context of the education of the slum children. You have understood it very well. The second line, let me explain you once again. With ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. Let me explain you this particular sentence once again, because you may be confused regarding two strands of meaning. Okay, let me explain you. Actually here, primary meaning of this particular sentence, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, means the images or the pictures of ships, the pictures of the sunshine, the pictures of the story of love that are depicted in the pictures hung on the classroom are so alluring, so attractive for the children that they will certainly take some unfair means in order to achieve or to fulfill some of the wishes of those colorful world by resorting to stealing, snatching and other antisocial activities. Because if a child is not getting whatever he craves for or whatever he desires, then he resorts to some petty thievery or stealing or snatching to fulfill his unfulfilled desire. So therefore the meaning, I hope you understood now the meaning of this line, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. it means the reference of the picture of beautiful ships, the picture of a beautiful place with sunshine, stories of love that are mentioned in the walls of that are given on the walls of the classroom are so alluring. And you can also say moreover, like the children do not have access to such colorful life as depicted in the pictures of the classroom. Therefore these beautiful objects, these beautiful stories will tempt them or force them to steal, okay, resort to stealing or snatching. That is why all the classroom hangings, okay, all the classroom pictures, be it Shakespeare's head or be it the world map or be it the pictures of Tyrolese Valley civilization, all the colorful world, are all irrelevant to the needs of slum children. Okay, and last two lines you understood already. So dear students, let's wind up today here. We shall continue our lesson tomorrow. So before we finally wind up, can you please write or text me yes, so that I understand that you are still there, or thank you, whatever you mean to say. Okay, whatever you text me is okay for me, so that I understand that you are still with me. Very good, very good. Sahiba, Prabhas, Sejal, Harshit, Anam, Ashutosh, Arya, Sahiba, Harshit. Thank you so very much. And Harshit, Anam, Rishu, Sadvika, Mansi, Prakhar, Riya, Gaurav, Sravani, Nidhi, Sadvika, Balchandra, Bhunesher, Ashutosh, Vinith, okay, Tanvi. Okay, thank you so very much, Mahak, Mayur, Vikram, Salender, Kailani. Very, very nice. Kailani, Nidhi, and others. Vikram, please be present on a regular basis. Thank you so much, dear students. I shall post your attendance link in the Google Classroom after my next class is over. So by 12 o'clock I shall post your attendance and inform you on WhatsApp. Please register your attendance. It takes less than a minute for you to mark your attendance. So as and when I post it, upload it on Google Classroom, I shall text you on your group WhatsApp. Please do mark your attendance. Thank you so very much. We shall meet tomorrow at 12:20. Tomorrow is our time is 12:20 noon. Okay, so please do come at 12:20 p.m. tomorrow. Till then, bye bye, take care and have a nice day. And Rishuraj, you please text me your mobile number. I would like to talk to you regarding farewell program. So Rishuraj, you please do text me your number so that I can contact you urgently today. Thank you so very much. All the rest of you. Bye bye. Take care.